It's currently blizzarding in Denver, where I live, so I'm excited to sit around and watch basketball for the next 2 nights. I usually play basketball on Thursdays, but I'll enjoy the professionals here. Unfortunately, the injury report seems to get longer every time we write an article.
With that said, let's dive into today's slate. Core plays Kevin Durant, SF, PF, PHX, $9,500 DraftKings, $10,000 FanDuel. Durant has scored at least 57 DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 fixtures, scoring at least 32 fantasy points in all but 1 game this year. That's why he has a 50-point average, and you know he'll be motivated in a showcase game against the Celtics.
When he played Boston last week, KD dropped nearly 70 DK points. Jalen Brunson, PG, NYK, $9,000 DraftKings. Brunson has taken over this offense since Julius Randle went down, scoring at least 37 DraftKings points in 36 of his last 39 games. JB also has a 46-point average in that span, regularly playing 35 to 40 minutes and taking 20 shots a night.
We certainly don't expect Portland's defense to slow him down, surrendering the 5th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Jalen Green, PG, SG, How, $7,700 DraftKings, $7,400 FanDuel. Seeing Alperen Sengun go down a few nights ago was sad, but it's Green's time to shine now.
We rarely correlate a big man's injury to a boost for a guard, but it's easy to understand because Sengun was the focal point of this offense. Green was starting to take over either way, averaging 37 minutes and 20 shots across his last 7 outings.
He's also averaging nearly 40 fantasy points per game in that stretch and should wallop a Wizards team that has the worst defense rating in the NBA. Cash game considerations: Luka Doncic, PG, DAL, $12,700 DraftKings. Doncic is leading the league with 67 DraftKings points per game and has his season average above 70 DK points over the last month.
He's guaranteed nearly a 30-point triple-double on every slate, and he's an easy pick in every lineup. If Doncic has to sit, Kyrie Irving is one of the best plays out there. Tim Hardaway Jr.
also sees a massive boost. Giannis Antetokounmpo, PF, C, Mill, $11,400 DraftKings, $11,800 FanDuel. Giannis has averaged 62 DraftKings points per game over the last 2 months, establishing a 50-point floor in that span. Squaring off with the Sixers sounds tough, but this has been a below-average defense since Joel Embiid got injured.
Not to mention, Giannis is averaging nearly 70 DK points per game against them over the last 6 seasons. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, PG, SG. OKC, $10,400 DraftKings. SGA is averaging 56 DraftKings points per game and has done that damage while providing a 40-point floor, but both totals could increase with Jalen Williams nicked up.
A showcase game against Dallas only adds to his value, with the Mavs posting a 22nd OPRK against opposing guards. In their 5 matchups since the start of last season, Gilgeous is averaging 51 fantasy points per game.
GPP targets Josh Hart, SF, PF, NYK, $7,300 DraftKings. Hart didn't even play 40 minutes in his most recent outing, being held to 39 minutes. That's a laughable stat, but Hart has been playing 43 minutes a night over the last 2 weeks. That absurd workload has led to Hart scoring at least 34 DraftKings points in 9 of his last 10 games while generating a 46-point average in that span.
It's hard to find anyone playing 40 minutes, especially one in this price range. Al Horford, PF, C, Boss, $6,300 DraftKings, $5,900 FanDuel. Porzingis continues to miss games for the Celtics, and that bodes well for Horford's fantasy value. That always forces this former All-Star into the starting lineup, and he's scored at least 31 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 starts.
He's also flirting with a 30-point average as a starter and should never be this cheap in that expanded role. One of those was against the Suns when he scored 31 fantasy points across 31 minutes last weekend.
Amen Thompson, PG, SG, How, $5,200 DraftKings, $7,600 FanDuel. This DraftKings price is ridiculous. The discrepancies between these sites tell you everything you need to know, with this FanDuel price being closer to its true value since Sengun and Cam Whitmore both went down.
In a starting stretch back in February, Amen stuffed the stat sheet en route to nearly 40 fantasy points per game. We saw him drop 43 fantasy points over the weekend, and we're ecstatic that he's starting now that Sengun is out.
Facing the Wizards is the best part, though, with Washington ranked last in points allowed and defensive efficiency. Value plays Tyus Jones, PG, was $6,200 DraftKings, $6,800 FanDuel. It's been another tough year in Washington, but it's not Jones' fault.
The veteran has done a wonderful job as this team's starting point guard, averaging 32 DraftKings points per game over the last month. He's one of the league leaders in assists during that span and should have another solid outing against Houston.
He scored at least 29 fantasy points in both his starts against the Rockets last year. Alex Caruso, SG, SF, Chi, $5,500 DraftKings, $5,800 FanDuel. Caruso isn't the most exciting fantasy option, but his defensive abilities give him a nice floor. This versatile guard has been starting since Levine went down, averaging 28 DraftKings points per game in this newfound role.
That's all you can ask for from such an affordable player, and you know AC will play massive minutes to oppose Paul George and James Harden. We didn't even mention that he flirted with a triple-double on Wednesday. Daniel Gafford, C. Doll, $4,900 DraftKings. Gafford is too expensive on FanDuel, but he's a heck of a bargain on DraftKings.
The big man is only playing 20 to 25 minutes a night, but he can play at a $6,000 level in that type of role. He's shown that recently, scoring at least 35 DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5 fixtures.
That was close to his average with the Wizards, and these prices need to be met in the middle. Advantageous pricing. Amen Thompson, PG, SG, Who, $5,200 DraftKings, $7,600 FanDuel. Bradley Beal, SG, PHX, $6,700 DraftKings, $8,000 FanDuel. Andre Drummond, C. Kai, $4,900 DraftKings, $6,000 FanDuel. Paul Reed, PF, C. Phi, $5,400 DraftKings, $6,500 FanDuel. Richaun Holmes, C. was $4,500 DraftKings, $5,600 FanDuel. Jock Landale, C. Who, $4,600 DraftKings, $5,600 FanDuel.